Okay, it's challenge time for arrays. In this challenge, I want you to create a program using arrays that sorts a list of integers in descending order. Descending order means from highest value to lowest. In other words, if the array has the values 50, 25, 80, 5 and 15, your program should return an array with the values in the descending order 80, 50, 25, 15 and 5. First, create an array of randomly generated integers. If you don't know how to do this, be sure to watch the video with the title using java.util.arrays. It's not the previous video but the one before that. Print the array before you sort it and print the array after you sort it. You can choose to create a new sorted array or just sort the current array. In the last video, I showed you how to use the arrays.sort method, but that sorts from lowest to highest. This challenge is for you to sort in reverse or descending order. It's time now to pause the video and actually try out this challenge. If you get stuck or when you're finished and you're ready to check my version of the solution, come back and I'll show you how I did it. Pause the video now. Okay, so how did you get on? Did you figure it out? Let's go through my solution. I've already created a project called Array Challenge, and I've got the usual main class and main method inside the dev.lpa package. The first thing I want to do is write a method that gives us an array of randomly generated numbers. We did that 2 videos back. So this should look familiar if you watch that video. I'll type the whole method in this case, since it's really what we did before with one exception. Then we'll review it. It's a static method that returns an int array. I'll call it getRandomArray, and it has one parameter, an int named len. Random equals new random. I'll create an int array named randomArray with the size based on the argument len passed to this method. I'll now go through all elements of the array using a for loop and assign each element a random number using random.nextInt 1000. Finally, I'll return the created array. This time I've got 1000 as the upper bound passed to that method. That means I want random numbers between 0 and 999 because that upper bound is an exclusive upper bound. I will add the code to call the new method from the main method. Int array unsorted array equals getRandomArray parentheses with 5 as the argument. I'll print out the toString value of the unsorted array. In this case, I start with a small array with 5 elements and I'll print the unordered elements out. Running that, your array will be different from mine since the numbers are randomized. And we know I can just order these using arrays.sort, but that sorts in the order lowest to highest. I want the opposite here. How do I sort in reverse order? Later you'll learn how to use an overloaded version of the sort method to do this, but in this challenge I want to use the skills you've learned so far. We could go about this in a couple of ways. We could sort the array first, then just swap the order of the elements. Or we could write our own sort method. For my solution, I'm going to do it the second way. I'll create a method called sortIntegers that's going to sort the array and return a new array containing the sorted numbers. The first thing I'll do is copy the contents of that array into a new array. Now I know I can do this using arrays.copy of method, so let's use that here. Public static int array called sortIntegers with a parameter of int array called array. I'll create a copy of the array passed to this method and return it. I haven't sorted anything yet, I'm just returning a new copy of the array from this method. Now I have to add the code to do the reverse sorting. I'm going to do this with a while loop. Boolean flag equals true, int temp. While parentheses flag equals false. First, I created a boolean called flag and set that to true. My while loop will keep processing until flag is flipped to false. I also need a temporary variable, which I'll use in the loop in a minute. Next, I start the while loop testing the flag condition, which is true, and right away I'm going to set it to false, and the reason is I'm going to have a nested for loop. If the for loop hasn't finished sorting all the numbers, I'm going to flip the flag back to true again, so that the actual while loop continues. By default, I'm setting it to false, which means if I don't reset flag to true, I'll end the while loop. Now I need to add the code to actually start doing the sort. I'll use a for loop for the array, but note that I'm using -1 for the length. If sorted array I in square brackets is less than sorted array I plus 1 in square brackets, temp equals sorted array I in square brackets, sorted array I in square brackets equals sorted array I plus 1 in square brackets. Sorted array I plus 1 in square brackets equals temp. Flag equals true. This code is going to compare two contiguous or sequential elements, meaning elements that are side by side. I'll do this in a for loop, starting at element 0, which we know is the first element. Because I'm comparing two elements in each iteration, I'll stop comparing at the element that's just previous to the last element. That's why I'm using sorted array.length minus 1 there as the condition in the for loop. The first time in this loop, I'll compare the first and second elements with this if statement. If the first element is less than the second element, I want to swap the elements. I use the temp variable to move the current element's value into a temp variable. I then set the current element to the value I want swapped in, and then I set the next element's value to the temp variable. If I didn't move the current value into a temp variable, I would override it or lose its value. So I have to temporarily store it while I'm swapping. When you're switching places like this, you'll often see code that moves one array element into a temp variable before it swaps it with another. And although this will order some of the values in the first pass through the loop, it may not get them all. Let's add some println statements that will help us see what's happening. I'll print the array right after I swap a number, and I'll print the array right after I finish one pass through the for loop. I'll also print the array's content right after we start the method. And print toString for a sorted array here, and print sorted arrays toString again here. And to make this easier for our purposes right now to understand what this code is doing, I'll pass in a static array with three values. Int array sorted array equals sort integers, passing a new int array with the fixed values of 7, 30 and 35. I'll print sorted arrays toString here, and if I run that, you can see what is happening at the different stages. I start with the numbers in the reverse order of what I want them to be. On the first check, the code checks if 7 is less than 30, and it is. So it's going to swap them and print that out. On the second line there, you can see 7 and 30 were swapped. Next, it's going to test the following element, which is 7 now, because I just swapped it, and it's going to see if 7 is less than 35, and it is. So again, it'll do the swap process. It swaps 7 and 35. At the end of the for loop process, I have the array in the order, 30, 35, 7. We can see from this that it's not done sorting. The flag was set to true during the last swap, so my while loop is going to keep processing, and the for loop will happen again. And now the second time through the for loop, I'm starting with 30, 35 and 7. The first element is less than the second element in this case, so again a swap will happen, 30 gets swapped with 35, and the flag gets set to true. And now I have a fully sorted array, but because the flag is true, the while loop will execute again, and the for loop will execute again. But there's nothing left to swap. This time the flag never gets set to true, so the while loop will finally exit. Okay, so that was the challenge. And maybe you came up with a different method to sort. Maybe you used arrays.sort to first sort lowest to highest, and then simply swapped the values. I'll look at something similar to that in a future challenge. For this challenge, I wanted you to see how you might go about manually sorting array elements. This will help you appreciate some Java features I'll be talking about later. Java provides many ways to sort your collections of objects. Right, in the next video, I'll do a recap of the Java array, then I'll give you a couple more challenges. The array is a very important data structure in Java, so it's important to grasp how it works. I'll see you in that next video.